How's it going, guys? My name is Aaron.mcinnes, and I'm here today going over some post-Juho gameplay. I'm trying to expand my coaching, and I thought it'd be a great idea to show you exactly how that I personally review some of my gameplay. We're going to explain some of the thought process I'm going through, identify some of the mistakes, and then learn. This is a new format that we're all trying to get used to, so I think it's a great idea to do it all together. I have my personal coaching on metafy.gg. You can also feel free to reach out to me on Discord and Twitter. This is a match that I played earlier today, actually, against Herman Hansen, who just top 16'd the European WCQ. He was on Vanquish Soul. He's now testing out the Dracotail deck. I'm personally playing Vanquish Soul Kanan right now just to try and learn everything. So yeah, let's get right into it and see what we've got. This is two separate matches, so we'll do it one at a time, and we'll do it from my perspective, and then we can go over some different spots if his hand becomes relevant. So we've got a hand of Rosin, Impulse, Xiaolong, Nibiru, Fua. You can argue to standby phase Fua in general right now. I think game one it's probably best to do it. That's something that I didn't really consider in the moment. It's something I'm still trying to like be aware of. Is like, hey, Fuaing on your turn now is something that's way more viable because of things like Izuna, Holy Su if you're playing against a mirror match. If you're playing against Dracotail, they can do 5 mana. So yeah, like there's some situations, and then in this matchup, in this deck, like the card economy in your hand doesn't actually matter. So like having a dead fool in your hand doesn't provide you anything. When in some decks, maybe a discard fodder matters. So we go get Peruliad. So we have a few different options here. Primarily, my goal is when I get Peruliad and Fluid, I'm just gonna like make the smallest sword possible because you have cards like Holy Su. I've got Nibiru in my hand. I have other things that I can draw into like Izuna. I'm not the biggest. It's not a big deal of mine or a big concern of mine to extend super far. So we're just going to go for the rock at Holy Su. I currently only have 2 attributes, so missing the dark is really important. So there's 2 different things you can do. You can go either reveal Xiaolong here off of Rosin's effect, summon it, and then go for rock. I think that's something that I could have considered doing, but here I get Fluid. And I think I wanted to like just minimize the amount of cards. Most of these decks right now, it's like Vanquish Soul really thrives off of getting a lot of cards. Also, Xiaolonging in hand will turn on Izuna. So some Dracotail decks play Izuna cards. Mirror Match plays Izuna. Most of the DB matches right now have been specifically Justice Hunter decks. So things like Malice and Mitsu aren't as prominent. But either way, just like giving decks more cards right now is just like a really big detriment. And I've got something like Nibiru in my hand. I've got Impulse to try and draw into more cards if I need to. I think trying to just like prevent them from getting as many cards as possible is the ideal. And then on my opponent's turn, I can go Holy Su, reveal Xiaolong, Xiaolong summon itself, and I'll have Rosin and Impulse in my hand to search for a dark. So I will have the effect of Holy Su live. I can Borger, I can get to Caesar off of, depending if I start off Rosin. Like there's a few different options that I have here. So we go here, we get double chummied, we add back Rosin, and then we're just gonna pass. He leads with Rahu, which is a random fusion for Dracotail. You have to use you can use monsters from deck. All the Dracotail fusions require monsters from hand though. So it's generally just gonna be 1 from deck and then an X amount of monsters from hand. So he goes Rahu, he sends Muller from deck, which is effectively an imperm, but it doesn't target. And then all the monsters when sent to the graveyard set one of the spells or traps. So really good card. He has Shaddoll Beast in rotation. So now we need to be aware that he's triggering all these effects, but he also has Winda access, which is a pretty big concern. Winda is one of the best ways that this deck has against combating the VS, like all the tag outs and stuff. Most floodgates, VS can kind of fight its way through, but Winda obviously is just like a pretty prominent one because like unless you already have Mad Love on the board, you can't bounce it. Yeah, so it's just like pretty difficult to play through. Winda will apply a lot of pressure to your deck. So Rock gets negated. I could technically have chained, but it doesn't target, like I said, so you will lose the Raisin's effect to search on resolution. So there's actually like no real good reason to do it. Goes Cartesia. There's nothing really to do here. I'm kind of just like letting him play it out, and then hopefully at some point we will have an opportunity to fight back. You could argue right here. So he adds back off of the Arthalion. He adds Shaddoll Beast and Dracotail Lucius. I think there's a small argument here for me to start making plays. So this card is a Thunder Dragon Titan, if you're familiar with it. In response to the effect of a Dracotail activation, you can chain and pop a card. So in my head, I'm like, okay, I would prefer to prevent that from happening. So like having Holy Su in hand is like a pretty good prevention. Like you can just chain it in response to that. But my board doesn't really have anything that matters, so I think that was an oversight by me. Like he's not gonna chain to pop my rock to make my chummy alive, so like that's just gonna stick on board forever. And now that I'm aware that he has Winda and he has Ketus, I think he either set it or had it in hand. I think I needed to be a little bit more proactive here. on the Cartesia summon doesn't make any sense because it's a quick effect. So like preventing that would have been nice if it was an option, but it's not. So now that he's here with our 3 monsters on board, doing something a little bit more proactive here is probably ideal, like summoning Holy Soon Defense, getting Xiaolong on the board, and then adding a Dark monster. Yes, so then we have Fire Dark. We can summon Rosin from deck. We can get Caesar Valleys in rotation that way. So we're going to lose a fair amount of cards, but like we're going to force him to commit even harder to play around Nib. Or to play into Nib, rather. And we'll get Rosin back off of Caesar if we want to, or we can add back Holy Sue if we still have the attributes available. Just kind of depends on how he interacts. So yeah, Ketu. Yeah, so this is where I think I should have been a little proactive. Both of these are Ketu, so I can't like Caesar Valleys try and pop it. I just need to like go a little bit wider on board and force him to actually have to pop my board instead of just like being able to swing over it. The issue is I think his monsters are pretty big, so here we go Holy Sue. I try to reveal Rosin, and then I'll get... I don't die here, which is nice, but it's just like really hard to outwinda, and he's aware of that. Herman's obviously a fantastic player. And we played actually a match yesterday as well. That's on DB Grinder channel if you have any interest in that. I linked that as well to get his commentary over it. So yeah, now we know that this is a Ketsu, and then he sets Horn, which is the attack position bounce, which we don't know. The 2 available interrupts for this deck are Horn, which is a bounce and attack position monster, and then I forgot the name of it, but it's negates the effect of a face-up spell. So now we're here. Another thing, so this is another time where I made a mistake. I should be fooling early, just to like get the draw of Cartesia or force him to use it. And if he uses it, then he's under window and can't use any more special summons. So that would have been a smart thing that I failed to recognize. So now we're here, we go Rosin, we get Veilered, inconvenient, but doesn't actually affect that much. So we still have outs to window through summoning Xiaolong. We don't know what this trap is. We can assume that he has one, based on him not having said it last turn. So we go Rosin effect, which negated Xiaolong effect to summon. And now we attack the window. We still have fire in hand. It's going to get bounced, so we chain Xiaolong, revealing the impulse to put wind in defense, and still attack over it. So we're still in a not a bad position, not a great one. So we're here. We have Holy Sue available as a special summon, but we've already used Xiaolong, so our only real play here is to Rosin summon, and then add back, and then just like try and force him to interact with us and just like kind of hope. So yeah, like this is where like me having used Fua would have been good. The reason why we chain Impulse here is because the fire at this point isn't super relevant, and we want him to, in a perfect world, make our Thalion and give us an opportunity to draw into more cards. Because I obviously didn't Fua, so not the best decision. Now we're here, we have some spare bodies. We can make Typhon technically off of what he's got. That's the other reason why we chain this, is so we can get a body that sticks. So here we go through this long dance of figuring out what's best, because we're testing and just taking back plays. He ends up originally trying to add back the Veiler, but then decides that it's just best to like bounce my 2 bodies, which I think I agree with. Because when he adds back, I get to trigger Fire Attacker and dig deeper, and when he does this, like he just like removes my board pressure, and then also makes it way easier for him to just like stick game on board already, or just like enter battle off of the start of the turn. So yeah, we do this. I go Typhon, I bounce the guy that pops. He gets Cartesia back, so it's like it's pretty hard to win from here. I can't really force him into playing a nib, so I think I played my last turn. I think it was his first turn. Or I'm sorry. Yeah, I just like didn't play this game well. Definitely like I should be fooling in spots where like I'm likely to get the draw. And then not saying the dark is like a pretty negative. That's one of the main problems is like playing Nibiru over something like Crow, maybe some more Bestials, which aren't super prominent in the list. I think they're okay against some of the older decks, but post Juho they're not like fantastic. They're okay into Yummy, but against Dracotail they're not too relevant, and against Vanquish as well they're not fantastic either. And now we're learning about Mysterion, and I end up losing. Game 2, I get to go first, so we get Peruliad. In general, I choose not to Ash Blossom because, like I said in the first game, I think this deck plays through Chummies rather well, so I'm not super concerned with giving him a draw or 2. And against like this deck where is playing Branded Fusion, I think the opportunity for me to Ash Branded Fusion is way stronger interrupts than like me cutting off a draw or 2, because he has a finite number of plays, and Ash cutting off one of them I think is important. So we go Stake Your Soul, Reveal Ash. I forgot to chain Shifter in real time, but chain it because we're testing. It's all good. Go for Holy Sue, and then we have all of our attributes live here: Dark, Fire, and Earth. So we are pretty big chillin'. This deck can't really kill through Shifter at all. You could argue to Ash here, but under shifter, like it's just like pretty difficult for his deck to do anything relevant. So he goes for this into pan attack. So like you could argue that like cutting off one of these is not bad because it stops 5 mana or prevents 5 mana from being searched. But this deck just like does so well into the Dracotail deck that like it's not something that I'm super concerned with. And then like I could have like just done Holy Sue stuff on his turn. I think it's a mistake that I didn't. I just didn't want to play into like if he's playing something like Thrust. I figured that like if this deck's only interrupt is 5 mana, then like I can't really lose. And then like I don't want to like give his opportunity like to chummy me on my turn and just like potentially sack his way out of it, draw like whatever non-agent cards he has available. I think just like with this 5-card hand, I can never really lose to whatever 5 cards he has in hand. If he had set cards and like potentially threatened more interrupts, I'd been more concerned. But like with 5 monster cards in hand, like he could have like Valor, Ash, Nib, and I think I'm still pretty comfortable with my hand. Because at that point I can still just like Ash to follow up and like be mindful of that. So yeah, we could lead start to play around the pop and just like I think it just like not like a I don't think it's a mistake. Like giving him information is negative, but like it also just like applies pressure immediately. Of like, hey, like if you don't respond to this Rosin, I'm gonna get the search off. So we go for this. We search the fire because Ash may have to be used, and if I want fire for Fire Dark for pop for whatever reason, then we do that. And then it's also just like a level 5. Xiaolong is like one of the primary cards you want to have access to, just because these two monsters on their own are level 5 or rank 5, sorry. So we get into Ripper and then all of our Canine plays, which would just like end the game on the spot because 5 mana is a hand effect. So we go here, we get Drolled. Not my favorite, obviously. Card's good. It's like a little bit less prominent post Juhu because Dracotail and Yummy don't respond too well to it. And then also even against this deck, like if you open Asuna or like just a hand like this where you go like raise and add Holy Sue and have the attributes, like you cut off like the potential like super nut board, but it's still really hard to win the game. Dracotail may be one of the better decks with it because like you play really good spell cards, and when the decks don't play hard negates, your spell cards are going to resolve and have a lot of value. But in this situation, I think it's still pretty difficult for him to win. So we go Fire Dark to pop Lucius, now that we're not concerned with Chummies, and it also it'll most likely threaten 5 mana. So he chains. He fuses with, I think he decides his entire hand. So yeah, he gets to bounce 3 different bodies. So yeah, 3 cards from hand. Urgula pops when it is used, Pan pops a monster. Urgula pops Spell and Trap, Pan pops a monster. And then Cartesia can add itself back in the end phase, so just like effectively 3 free bounces, so you can add either Droll back or Perulia, 5 mana, like whatever he's feeling. And because he's going to add 3 from grave, and he's going to pop the Rosin because I've already used the effect. And again, these cards don't target, which is very silly. So like me chaining Caesar values here wouldn't have provided any value. I think he ends up taking one thing back here because I'm not sure. This is one of the weird things about testing. Like when you're taking plays back, like it's all good. Like you want to just like see what the capabilities of all the decks are and the options. But so we go to this situation and he does this, and I think I like threaten game in like a pretty effective way. I go summon Xiaolong from deck. I now have 3 5s for whatever Paradise Smasher or just like Ripper into whatever. I'm under Droll, so Ripper is like less good, but I can go like Nash Knight, take his guy, and just like threaten game that way. And then he ends up deciding to go back, and I think leaving Pan engrave because Pan is like an effect when a fusion leaves the field. So this is us testing, so it's all good. It's like we're both learning the capabilities. I'm not sure if that's something he would actually be mindful of in real time. So like if we're playing a tournament match, like him adding Pan back makes sense, and I'm probably gonna win the game off of it because like I can just like pop the guy, attack for a lot. This is 78, and then on my turn I can set up Borgard, or on his turn I can set up Borgard to burn. Between the combination of like Xiaolongs and whatever Holy Sue summons. So yeah, like this is good, but like now that he's aware, like okay, this deck can apply a lot of pressure even through Droll. He leaves the Pan engrave because it has the effect. If fusion is destroyed by card effect, it can special summon non-fusion Dracotail monster from grave. So whatever, summon Lucius. So yeah, just like summons itself back as a body. Here I go through a couple different iterations. I don't really know what I think is best. I think the easiest way to play this is to pop one of the. I don't have any spells, so Flame is no longer relevant. I have Ash for Rahu, and then I think it's just like pop Horn. And then I can attack for that. Yeah, so the original... Wait, okay. I think I may have... Okay, I think I actually... Okay, yeah, I did this thing correctly. And this is, again, us taking back plays. And it'd be going a little weird. So the play that I end up doing, we'll skip to forward a little bit so it makes sense. Because I kind of realized that like I'm gonna end up going for Nash Knight and Masquerade. Um, so this is what the actual play was supposed to be. So I'm supposed to Nash Knight suck up his guy, and then Caesar Valleys pop a set and Masquerade pop a set. So this ends up being like what the play is, and it ends up being an extra 1,200 points of damage, which is what I recognize because I'm like, okay, if I get to Umbral Horror him on my turn, or on his turn, sorry, he'll be at 1,000, and then the border will end up being game. So then the original play was not that. This is what the play that I decide is best. After like looking at some of the life, I'm like, if I do the original play where I attack and then Zhao Long and then do all of this, he has 1,200 more life points, and he'll be at 16 if I have him, so border isn't game. In fairness, like I have whatever all attributes plus Holy Sue, and then like Rock add back for Caesar, so I have like pretty much everything in rotation that I need to win. But this is just like the most efficient way of like threatening game, like without even me having to like be concerned with the ash in my hand. So this is the play that I think is better, and this is again like I was just learning the format and trying to figure out what's best. He goes 5 mana. I do nothing. I think I like okay, so like I Rock add Caesar just to play around any potential negates. He fuses for a lot. He gets a few different effects. I think he gets to add like 2 or 3 cards back. He sets Ketu, and he used the Dragon Fusion. So like now me ashing this Ketu I think is really good. Like he now no longer has like a fusion spell that searches a name. All the only names that he has are ones in rotation, which I know, which are Lucius and Pan. And now he chains Flame here to get a draw. Sorry. And then what we have learned and what you'll see from the chat over the course of the next couple of games is like Herman realizes like how difficult Holy Sue is to out for this deck. Like this deck doesn't actually put up hard negates. So like Holy Sue's ability to just put itself on board whenever and then tag out and like dodge and play around things like the pop. And then like being in defense mode obviously plays around the spell that the trap that bounces. It's just really difficult for this deck to actually do anything like within the Dracotail engine, which is why cards like Winda are in the format. Cards like Fenrir, which perform really well against. Or not really, but like they threaten the Holy Sue, and cards like Izuna. Like that is one of the primary ways that I think pure Dracotail should play. Is just like have Fenrir as like a card that applies pressure and also is free card economy for your fusions. Yeah, so we're going to game 3 of match 1. Pretty solid hand, obviously. Speaking of Fenrir, he draws it, so yeah, we'll see how it performs this game. He goes Fenrir into Lucius. And I choose the Impulse here because I already have a fair amount of attributes, and just like drawing something like Holy Sue would be like really, really good for me. He goes back and is like, hey, I'm going to fool in standby phase, which is something that I didn't do in game 1 and should have, so it makes perfect sense. And he's like, yeah, do you still want to do Impulse? And he's like, yeah, so the reason why you wouldn't in this deck, you wouldn't fool it is because his deck's a fusion deck, and it's as long as you have monsters in hand, you can fuse with pretty much anything. You need like usually Dracotail anywhere, and then like a monster in hand. That's how you trigger, or that is the summoning condition for most of the Dracotails. So like having a Fua in hand, like in most decks is awful, but in this deck it's like free fusion fodder, which is nice. So he's like, hey, do you still want a Fua? And I'm like, yeah. Like I look at my hand and I'm like, I have the opportunity to draw like some really good cards here, and just like win the game on the spot. If I draw Holy Sue, if I draw Azuna, like all these cards just perform really well. And if not, then like I got this free draw 2 off of, for and especially like if he wants to Fenrir this fire attacker, then like my next push is gonna be even stronger. So we choose the Lucius, fire attacker to draw, which I draw Holy Sue, which is just the dream. So now Izuna would have been a little bit worse, obviously, because this is a 6. If somehow fire attacker was a 5, it would have been even better. So I choose to discard Rhoda because I know his deck plays Droll. Getting Drolled here would be like a catastrophe. So like Impulse being a fire is effectively the same thing as like Rhoda, considering I already have Raisin access. So I'm just like, okay, we'll just get rid of the Rhoda. We have a fire. We're perfect. And then I think I move over the fire attacker to realize at some point that this should be open in case I want to rosin it. Yeah. So yeah, we go Urgala, all these effects. He gets all of his resources, sets a couple cards, sets both spells. So this is another potential argument for like why Impulse isn't very good. It's a card I'm testing out right now. It's in my head right now. It's like effectively Perulia, which I'm not like the biggest fan of, but it's a fire monster at the end of the day, which is just like good enough. Like we're playing 3 Xiaolong, so just like having fires to make Xiaolong live immediately is like really nice. So yeah, we like potentially using Impulse in this situation is not great because it lets him resolve Ketu as a fusion summon. But from my perspective, if he doesn't draw like beast, then most of the fusions that the Dracotail deck makes aren't super impactful. Like Mysterion's okay, whatever. And they have a couple other options that are like fine, but like I'm not super concerned with like the interrupts this deck makes. I can put all my stuff in defense. I pitch my Rhoda, so like there's Dracotail trap is not going to provide any value. Yeah, so I've just got like a bunch of bodies, and like Borger can help dodge Fenrir, and I'm pretty content with how this game is playing out. So he Ketu's, what happens here? Sorry. Oh, so he uses Lucius. Okay, so I caught something. Whenever you fuse for Arthalion, the only card you get to add back is the number of monsters you fuse from hand with. He used 1 from hand, 1 from field, but then still added 2 from grave. So we just made sure to fix that real quick. So yeah, he sorts all this out. Add back 5 mana Fenrir. Yep. So now we're in like a legal game state. He does all this because Spheres is a good card. I love that. Love that this deck's able to play it. And you have Malulu off of Spheres, which is just a fusion, so it's really nice. It's like an engine piece that you get to play off of it. So we go for this. Holy Sue is just going to like completely annihilate this board, unfortunately. So he has whatever 2 Ketus, just to play around. I assume like Caesar Values pop, and then Dracotail we go for here. He tries to pass in main phase. I go Holy Sue. I reveal the Rosin because when we pitch Rhoda, it's pretty obvious that we already have one available. Now he goes to Fenrir. He chains Holy Sue, and I chain Borger. I chain 2 special summon from deck, and then I chain Borger to. So I'm under Fool. I give him another draw, but like, if I resolve all my effects on his turn, that makes something like draw way less impactful on my turn. So like, I'll give him 1 draw, but like, he would have to have like such a compact combination of like multiple Valors, Ash, and Nib, plus like draw, for it to be good. And like, I think I'd rather just like resolve the Holy Sue, get like the Rosin Surge, and then the Borger draw, and then also the Caesar Valley spot. Like I just get so much value off of all these cards that it's just like worth it to give him an extra draw. Especially when we're like he's in the main phase and like potentially there's something he can draw. But like just based on what I've seen in his deck, it's like mainly just like monster non-engine. And outside of draw, which I think I'm playing around by giving him the draw, then I'm not super concerned with what he can get access to. So here he scoops automatically, which I understand it's pretty rough for him. I think from my perspective, I would have he scoops because he Fenrir targeted Holy Sue, and I was able to chain Borger for it, which obviously it's gonna be super impactful either way. But so the way that I would approach it, if I'm him, and he may be able to explain to me why I'm wrong, I haven't actually spoken to him about this, is I would have been able to go whatever Holy Sue summon, and then summon Rosin in the Fender zone because that's a card that I want to clear, or either the Spheres, like either one. And then on his turn player, he's able to chainlink 1 Fender, target my Rosin. And as chainlink 2, I either have to choose to search or not, and then chain to pop. So I'm losing out on one of my effects that I would like to resolve either way. And that is why he said I think if you read the chat a little bit, we chat about it, and he's like, hitting the Holy Sue is better because it cuts you off from the earth. Which I understand, but I think when you're playing this deck, your goal is to kind of like, I don't know, from my perspective, it feels like you're trying to survive, just because the Vanquishful deck like pushes so hard, that playing the guessing game of like, oh, cutting off 1 earth monster seems like it's not the best approach. I don't know. Yeah, this is something that like I didn't understand, but it sounds like he's been playing the matchup more than me, so he seems like he's very confident in it. But yeah, so like for me, when I would want the Fender to like cut off either the Rosin or wait for him to Caesar Valius, like, or for me like to Caesar in hand and then like banish the Caesar, just because that's a card that like most decks are only playing 1 of, and like cutting off that recurring resource in a game in a deck that is designed to grind, I think would perform very well for him. Like obviously you're gonna lose the Spheres, you may lose one of your sets, which like sucks, but like technically we're all still in the main phase, so like he can like do things to either get cards back or generate new interrupts. So yeah, like obviously in this situation, like he scoops because like he sees whatever I have. But like I think this game is like a little bit longer than it looks like. But I guess like when you look at his hand, it's just like all engine. It's pretty rough. Like let's say he has like a couple of Valors in hand, maybe a Droll. This game goes a little bit longer and it's like more of a match. But like yeah, he just drew like all engine and it gets a little awkward, or not awkward. It's like it gets unplayable for him. So yeah, I think we're gonna do 2 separate videos. This one went a little bit longer than I thought. So yeah, I'm just gonna upload this and then I'll have a second one up shortly. And yeah, we'll go from there. Thanks for watching, and yeah, feel free to reach out if you want to do any coaching. And if not, I'll see you in the next video. Appreciate it.